Oh, hey, glad you could make it. Welcome to my epic composter. Yo, Sammy 2.0, you can come on out now. What's up? What did I miss? Say hi. Oh, we've got guests. Didn't see you there. Welcome. Since you're here, let's give you a tour. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another vlog. I'm Sammy Sick, and today, or what's left of today, I wanted to show you guys what the next project I'm gonna be working on is. So it's almost 8 o'clock here, and there's not much daylight left, but it's the only time of day where it's actually quiet right now because we've got cicada season going on. And I'll put a little clip in here of what it sounds like when I normally try and record. So I couldn't record any audio, but the project I'm gonna be working on involves this whole background here. You see all of these leaves. Over the years, that's where we have collected all of our leaves that we've gotten from our property, and they're just sitting there, and it's just a ton of carbon that I can turn into compost with grass clippings combined. So what I want to do, I want to make a compost bin. Now, if you watched my garden video, you know that I used a lot of old lumber in that one, but there's still a lot left. And behind me here, right here, I've gone ahead and laid out and cut down to size a whole bunch of it. And now all we have to do is assemble it. Figured I'd bring you along on this little adventure. Because the more I garden and farm, the more I realize that soil is probably the most important thing. So believe it or not, what you hear in the background is actually a very, very quiet day in cicada season. But you can understand why I wouldn't want to record normally in this conditions. However, behind me, we have the composter that I'm going to be building. And I'm going to throw this camera on time-lapse. We're going to time-lapse through the whole process, and then we'll talk about it.
Hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
Glad you could make it. Welcome to my epic composter. Yo, Sammy 2.0, you can come on out now. What's up? What did I miss? Say hi. Oh, we've got guests. Didn't see you there. Welcome. Since you're here, let's give you a tour. All right, so let's talk about the composter. First of all, you can see this lovely gap here in this top hinge door, which opens wonderfully. Well, that didn't used to be there. Unfortunately, this plywood got rained on before I treated it, so it's a little bit warped at the moment, but I'll fix it by the next time it rains and gets soaked. I'll just put a heavy object here and it should hopefully dry back in place. So that opens. And in here we have our compost bin. So I made this compost bin with the intention of the compost inside being able to easily be removed through the use of this lovely removable wall. To demonstrate, we're going to take the panels out and I will show you the inside of our composter. I'm gonna leave this last panel in just because there's not really any reason to take it out. The first thing you're gonna notice about this compost bin is that it has a floor and it's made of wood. What? So wood, because it's an organic material, obviously breaks down. And having decomposing compost on top of that is gonna accelerate the breakdown. So why on earth would I make a compost floor out of wood? Well, here's the thing. This wood has been sitting in a pile for years and it's already started to rot and break down, so I didn't really care if it continued to do that. That being said, I did take a couple precautions. Number one, this floor is raised. It's not in direct contact with the ground below it, so it is at least staying partially dry. Number two, there are slots in between the wood where the moisture can drain through if it ever becomes too excessive. And the third and final thing I did was I covered the floor with Flex Seal. So originally I was going to use shingles and then I was going to use a rubber tarp, and I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to use to cover the floor to sort of make the life of the wood last a little bit longer. In the end, I decided I was going to try Flex Seal, and I put a coating on top just to keep it out of direct contact. On the walls, you can see I did use shingles. I used a bunch of old shingles that we had in our barn. They'd actually been previously used on an old roof, and when they got taken off, they were still in decent condition, so we saved them. And there they are. And that'll keep the walls a little more safe. I didn't go all the way up because I don't think the compost is going to stack that high. But that is the inside of the compost. Over here we have the last wall that you haven't seen, or you have, but you just haven't talked about it. This is just hardware cloth. I put it across this wall. This is going to allow the oxygen that the compost needs, and as the compost finishes decomposing in there, it's going to hopefully, this will strain out some of that compost that is completed, and it will end up in the center, which is what we're going to talk about now. You might be wondering what on earth this large center portion is for. Originally I was going to do 3 compartments, but during the build I decided that I would use the middle portion to store completed compost. So I'm going to take it out of each of these side bins, put it in the center, and that's where I'm going to store it. I might have a tarp over it. I also didn't have enough lumber to build a full roof and a full wall in front of it. So this is what we decided to go with. I did not put any Flex Seal on top of this or treat it in any sort of way, so this is just gonna have the compost on top of the wood directly. Fortunately, because this wood is from an old burned out house, you can see it's very charred, and the charring will actually help prevent breakdown from moisture and any weather-related stuff. It also, I believe, keeps a lot of bugs out, but that's what the middle section is for. Now that I've kind of showed you the composter, we're gonna fill this thing up for the first time. I'm gonna talk about compost while I do this so you can sort of have a general idea of how compost is made. This right here is a previous compost pile that I hadn't turned yet, but I made it a while ago. Compost is made from a combination of two things, mainly. You need carbon, which are your browns, and you need nitrogen. There goes half my compost pile, which are your greens. So in this case, my carbon is old leaf material, and my nitrogen are mostly grass clippings or weeds, and you combine those two, and then the heat that you get combined with the moisture that you put into the pile is going to cause a breakdown. As I put this compost in there, I'm going to be sort of layering it. And then watering each layer in so that it has all the moisture it needs for the bacteria to grow. And I've also got a whole bunch of chicken manure over here that I'm gonna be putting in there and layering. Here's the finished product. This is all I am going to fill it with for the time being, and then as we generate like kitchen scraps or things like that, I'll be putting them in here on top. So now we're going to close this up. And then we're going to talk about some compost essentials, the facts, and the important bits. Let's talk about compost. Compost is healthy soil. Healthy soil is the #1 component in a healthy garden. I'm a new beginner gardener. Just started my first little plot, and that's definitely something I've learned the hard way. Right now my garden it's doing well because I'm taking care of it, but if it had healthy soil, it would be doing so much better, and the plants would be growing so much faster. So let's talk about compost and how you make it. Compost, like I said, is a combination of carbon and nitrogen, and you can add a whole bunch of lovely other nutrients to it to get better soil. In order for the materials to decompose, they need three things. They need oxygen, moisture, and heat. You do not need to have your compost pit in direct sunlight. In fact, if you have a bare compost pit in direct sunlight, you're going to dry it out really often. You're going to get those dry leaves on the outside of the pile, and those take forever to decompose. For the bacteria to thrive, they need the moisture and the oxygen and the heat. So this bin gets partial sunlight. As the day goes on, it gets more and more sunlight, but that sunlight is not making direct contact with the decomposing materials. It's heating up the bin, which is going to have a ton of moisture inside. Not a ton, but a substantial amount of moisture inside that's going to create a humid and hot environment for the bacteria to thrive. It's got the screen on the side, so it has plenty of oxygen. Something important you need to know about compost. Compost needs to be turned. the more often you turn it, well, within reason, the better the materials are going to decompose. I've got 2 bins here. What I'm gonna be doing is taking it out of this bin, transferring it to that bin, and then I'll go back and forth each time I turn it. What I have in here now is not completely, the finished. I left enough room for all of our kitchen scraps to go in here to add more nutrients and more diversity in the materials that are being decomposed. But even if I just left it as is, it would be a fantastic soil by the time everything was broken down and I put it on the ground, which will probably be, it'll probably be ready by next planting season, which will be the cold season, fall. But I may wait until next year when I have a good amount of it in the middle here for putting it out. And I just want to see what kind of results I can get starting from square one at season 1. But that's the gist of compost. Take care of your soil. If you treat it right, it's going to treat you right. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something about compost. And maybe even this build will help you in the future, or it will inspire something similar in some way. If you did, drop a like and subscribe. There's a ton more content to come. Compost is important. Take care of your soil. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay you, stay true, stay sick. Peace.